And now Senator Kaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the witnesses. A personal story, a worry, and then a question. So, personal story, in hearing my colleague Senator Marshall talk about how community college was really important to his educational path, getting a good education and not going into too much debt. For me, it was dual enrollment. Being able to go through the University of Missouri, which was at the time relatively low-cost public institution in 3 years rather than 4, was a really big deal for my family at that moment. And so there's no one-size-fits-all strategy around affordability. For some, it might be community college. For some, it's dual enrollment. For some, it's Pell Grants. For some, it's Stafford loans. It's just that we have to equip students and families much earlier. You have the capacity to get a great education. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So often, parents and kids are getting into the college search process without really knowing the breadth of avenues they can use to achieve a high-quality education at a cost that doesn't break the bank. So that's the story. The worry, my colleagues have shared worries about higher ed, whether it's anti-Semitism or other things. I'll tell you what my worry is. My biggest worry right now is if I look at the dismantling of the Department of Education, dramatic cuts in research funding going on in budgets that are being bandied about, dramatic cuts in funding to libraries, museums, and cultural institutions, elimination of funding to public broadcasting. Even outside the education space, directives to certain agencies like the National Weather Service and NOAA that have a lot of public information that they've been sharing with the public, like, hey, you shouldn't share it with the public, you should sell it. I'm a little bit worried that there's sort of a privatization of knowledge thing going on, and I am really, really worried about that knowledge could be available for those who can afford it, but not for those who can't. That worries me a lot. There's a famous phrase of Jefferson that is sort of paraphrased in the Virginia Constitution that says, progress in government and all else depends upon the broadest possible diffusion of knowledge among the general population. And that was part of a legislative bill that Jefferson proposed in 1779 for Virginia public school system that wasn't adopted, but the title and the philosophy was the way to preserve government and progress is to take knowledge and get it out in people's hands and diffuse it broadly among the public. That will be a counter to tyranny. That will be an accelerator of progress. And I worry that the combination of budget cuts and privatization of this and that is jeopardizing that. And so that's the worry I have. Here's my question, Dr. Larry Hart. I have been proposing during the tenures of now 3 presidents, Presidents Obama, President Trump, President Biden, President Trump, with vast bipartisan support, the notion that Pell Grants should not be confined purely to traditional college curriculum where there's a 15-week-long semester-like course, but that Pell Grants should be made available in a flexible way for high quality, got to define that, career and technical education. I've advocated that as the son of an iron worker who ran a vocational school in Honduras as a missionary teaching kids welding and carpentry, and I've also been advocating it as we've been doing manufacturing bills and we've been doing infrastructure bills. Who's going to make it? Who's going to build it? And yet, for 10 years since I first introduced this with Rob Portman, and now I've introduced it with a succession of others, recently with Senators Marshall and Collins and Senator Tina Smith, we get close, we kind of fall short, we get it through a committee, falls through on the House, happen on the House side, not on the Senate side, and again and again and again, we've fallen short on this. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that in addition to maybe I'm not as persuasive as I should be, so I have to own some of it, there's 2 other reasons. Number one, there's kind of a snobbishness about college in this place, that college is good and career and technical education is not so good. And I'm all for college, a proud University of Missouri grad, proud Harvard Law School grad, man, I'm all for college. But I'm also all for high-quality career and technical education. And I don't think we should have policies like Pell Grant that advantage one and ignore the other. I'm happy to say that the chairman of the committee has been a co-sponsor in the past of this bill, the Jobs Act. Would it help your students? Would it help educate our population, Dr. Larry Hart, if we allowed flexibility and allowed Pell Grants to be used by students who are seeking high-quality career and technical training?
Yes, profoundly. We've talked about, my typical student is named Ashley, and she's a 27-year-old single mother, raising a kid, working 2 part-time jobs. she needs that additional support to get a level 1 certificate that may be 15 hours, may take her 6 months to do, but there's a family sustaining wage waiting for her on the other side of it that would change the path for her entire family and generations that follow. Um, and I would just say she deserves our advocacy. She deserves to be seen and cared for in the same level that my colleague students deserve, but she's often misunderstood and ignored.
I'm over my time, but Mr. Chair, as I yield back, I said there were 3 reasons I think this hasn't proceeded. Maybe I'm not as persuasive as I should be. I think there is a snobbishness about college that we ought to get over. And the third thing is we don't mark up a lot of legislation. And I really hope that we can start marking up legislation, particularly legislation like the Jobs Act, where there's such bipartisan support.
I want to mark up legislation, so look
Good.
forward